Under the ownership of Roman Abramovich, Chelsea won the Premier League title, the FA Cup, the League Cup, the Europa League and the Champions League. But despite the Champions League win under Thomas Tuchel in 2021, the London club have failed to challenge for the Premier League title since they last won it in 2017. And this raises a curious conundrum. Even though Roman Abramovich carried Chelsea to the most successful period in their history, did he also actually hold them back in the long term? When Abramovich bought Chelsea in 2003, they became competitive almost immediately. Within 2 years, they'd won a Premier League title under Jose Mourinho's management, a feat that went on to repeat the next year as well. Over the course of the next couple of decades of Abramovich's ownership, they proceeded to win the Big Five Cups 17 times. But despite all of this success, there was a clear decline in Chelsea's ability to challenge at the highest level as the Abramovich ownership went by. Although Chelsea continued to win trophies throughout the era, they last won 2 trophies in the same season in 2014-15, when they won the Premier League and the League Cup during Mourinho's second stint at the club. Before that, they'd won doubles on 3 occasions. But the competition in which Chelsea's decline shows up the starkest in is the Premier League, with 5 titles coming across the Abramovich era, the last one appearing in 2016-17 under Antonio Conte. Since then, Chelsea have struggled to compete in the league at all, finishing between 3rd and 5th in the 5 completed seasons that ended the period of ownership by the Russian. This decline shows up even more strikingly if you compare the points gap between Chelsea and the league leaders throughout that period. Now, although there were poor seasons before the title win in 2016-17, most notably the Andre Villas-Boas season in 2011-12 and the end of Jose Mourinho's second stint in 2015-16, the points gap to the title winner since then has always been at least 19 points, and was as bad as 33 points in 2019-20 under Frank Lampard. So, what happened 5 years ago that suddenly made Chelsea no longer competitive in the Premier League? Well, in reality, 2 things: Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp. With Klopp joining Liverpool in 2015 and Guardiola arriving at Manchester City the following year, the Premier League summit grew higher. In the 14 seasons under Abramovich before the title win under Antonio Conte, the average points total of the Premier League winner was just over 88 points. Antonio Conte's 93 points was the highest total by any Premier League winner in that period, bar the 95 points that Jose Mourinho managed to win in his first season at the club in 2004-05. But in the 5 completed seasons that followed that Conte title win in 2017, the average points total for Premier League winners has jumped up by an incredible 7 points to 95, an increase of around 8% on the previous 14 seasons of the Abramovich era. In those 5 seasons, Antonio Conte's 93 points would have only won the league on 1 occasion, pipping Manchester City to the title in 2020-21. Although he would have only lost out on goal difference to City the following season. Now, of course, there were many factors in play that influenced the shift in expectations for Premier League success, but it's interesting that Chelsea never managed to implement their own managerial dynasty during the Abramovich years. Yes, Jose Mourinho won back-to-back trophies in his first stint at the club, but the other Premier League titles of the Abramovich ownership came as one-offs. Another one for Jose Mourinho in his second stint, and then singular titles for Carlo Ancelotti and Antonio Conte. In the post-Conte Premier League era, Manchester City and Liverpool have traded blows, setting the bar for Premier League success so high that only Arsenal this season have managed to get close. Now, this is a very different approach to winning the Premier League, one based around a consistent process of gradual improvement, a far cry from the method that got Chelsea titles across the last 2 decades, where the club adopted more of a galacticos approach to success, buying in talent and then supplementing this talent with managers who could achieve short-term success before moving on. At the time, this short-termism proved very successful. 17 major trophies in nearly 2 decades attest to that fact and go a long way towards explaining why Abramovich was so willing to fund such an expensive process. But in recent years, it seems to have lost its effectiveness, prompting the suggestion that the short-termism of the Abramovich era is actually holding Chelsea back in the present day. None of which is to say that Liverpool and Manchester City haven't achieved their success through expenditure. They very much have. But expenditure by itself is no longer enough to cut it as an approach to Premier League success. Instead, what's needed is expenditure considered through a long-term lens. No doubt Chelsea's new ownership, the Clearlake Capital Consortium, headed up by Todd Boehly, have recognised this fact. Since arriving at the club, they have implemented an extravagant spending policy, but they've matched this with an attempt to implement longer-term infrastructure at the club. By complementing their expenditure with the hiring of a process coach in Graham Potter, it seems clear that Chelsea are now trying to mirror the approaches taken by Liverpool, Manchester City, and more latterly, Arsenal, implementing a manager-focused attitude rather than simply a player-focused one. Now, perhaps this will not result in immediate success. Chelsea are certainly at the back of the queue when it comes to challenging for the Premier League as things stand. But surely this is the correct approach to adopt if they're ever to compete in this new era of the Premier League. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is home to some of the world's best sports journalists, including journalists dedicated to each Premier League team, so every fan gets the coverage they deserve, not just the big clubs. And you can try it for free now for 30 days. See the link in the description.